We could, but I want to use something different. And there are all our dirt textures down there, so let's jump back. Nope. Again, that's a metallic texture. And we're not creating a metal object, so not good for what we want. And these ones up here are wood, so it's either probably going to be this one or this one. Let's go with this one, and we can always do some color correction in Photoshop. I know it's quite muted, but we'll see what it looks like. So now I'm going to angle the model so I'm looking virtually directly onto it. Now the model is curved in the middle here. So I don't want to angle the model like that because I'm going to get texture stretching happening here along the top. I need to angle it so I'm looking at virtually the middle of the model. So something like that. And decide on what I recommend you do is to scale it up till it just fits inside the viewport here. And then decide on what scale you want the texture to be before you start painting it down, because at this stage you have to keep it the same. You can't scale the model or the texture once you've started laying it down. It all has to stay consistent. So I think probably about there like that. We're on a new layer, so if we don't like it we can remove it. I'm just going to start painting this texture in. Move it over a little bit and blend it together. Okay, and again in Mari, nothing is baked down, nothing is actually assigned to the model until you hit the Alt key to bake it down. So if you are using Mari, make sure that you press the Alt key before you move the model. Okay. We'll just blend these together here. Going to bake that down. You may be tempted at this stage to scale your texture up so it fits the entire model, but don't do that because it's not going to look right. These pieces are going to be huge otherwise, and it'll just look odd. So it takes a little bit more time, but you're better off keeping the texture smaller and just painting over areas, or repainting over areas. Make sure to keep everything lined up though. Thanks for the Twitch follow, Ira. Okay, let's paint this bit over here. And Sage as well. Very good at both of you guys. Just going to paint that in. I'm going to bake that down. Alright. Now the sides here, that's stretching. That's what I mean by texture stretching. That's because we were painting directly onto the model. So the texture was stretched down. We'll fix that in a minute. We're only concerned with the front of the model here at this stage. And we have stretching happening here on the sides of the model. That's because of those angled pieces. So I'm going to move to the side of the model here. In fact, I'm going to angle it just slightly forward like that. I'm going to go into projection and turn masking back on. Again, I haven't scaled the model and I haven't scaled the texture. It's important. At this stage, when you're laying down a base color, don't scale. And having our masking on will help us prevent us from overpainting the front that we've already done. We'll probably still have to blend them together a bit better, but at this stage it'll just help us a bit more. And press the Alt key to bake that down. And as I've said, by no means do you need to use a 3D paint program. You can texture up in Photoshop. That's a perfectly fine way to do it as well. It just takes a little bit longer and you don't get the instant feedback. Again, I'm going to bake it down with the Alt key. Alright. Now I'm going to swing around to the opposite side. Just line my model up here. Angle it slightly forward. Again, not scaling anything, keeping everything consistent. Again, I'm going to bake it down with the Alt key. Alright, bake it down. And again, like I said, you can set up Mari to auto bake for you, but I like to do it manually. We'll bake that down. Okay, let's do the back section. You're never going to see the back section, but we might as well do it. Again, I'm just going to angle the model slightly. Just slightly, because I don't want to have this texture on too much of an angle. You can rotate your texture as well to follow the model a bit better. Just being slightly careful here on this edge, because you see how the red shading is darker on the top than on the side. That means it'll stop the texture on the top, but it'll partially let it through on the side, so just be aware of that. The lighter the red, the more of the texture will overpaint. Just going to bake that down. I think what we may end up doing is taking this texture into Photoshop once we've finished it and maybe pulling the colors up a little bit. We'll wait till we get it back into Max and then we'll decide from there. Again, I'm going to bake it down with the Alt key and just paint in this bottom section. And bake it down. Let's do this top section. And again, this top section is hidden, but we're here, we may as well do it. And again, always rotate your texture to match the direction of your model. Okay, I'm going to bake it down. You can move your model around, just don't scale it up or down. Now I haven't baked it down yet, so I have to be careful not to move the model until I do. So now I'm going to bake it down. And just finish off this corner down here. Alright. Now, let's start adding some dirt to this. I'm going to angle the model slightly. I'm looking at the top of the text of the model just here. I'm going to go back into my image manager and I'm going to throw down a new layer because I'm about to throw down a new texture. Let's find something interesting. Interesting, but not really what I'm looking for. And again, these are just basically alpha maps or grayscale maps that I'm using as dirt maps. Maybe you. You might be interesting. So we're on a new layer because we're using a new texture. We still have our masking turned on, and I'm really only concerned with the front of the model and the white part of the texture. So I'm just going to angle it around so it follows the direction of the model. I can see through the texture where the top of the support is. So I'm just going to line that up and start painting over it. Now, because these supports run all the way around the outside edge of that model, all we have to do really, instead of doing each individual one uniquely, like we've done with the rest of them, we will just create 3 or 4 variations and we'll just alternate them around the outside. People won't know that you've reused the same texture, so long as you're careful. All right, I'm going to bake that down. Just move that out of the way for a moment and go over here to my layer style. I'm going to go to an add. Actually, let me just play around with these. Lighten or screen. Lighten or screen. I may go to a lighten on this one. I'm just going to pull it back. Probably just like that. Now I'm going to go to the bottom edge here. Again, I'm going to throw down a new layer. I'm going to use the same texture, but I'm on a new layer. Again, I'm just going to rotate the texture to follow the model a bit better. And I'm going to paint here, but this time I'm not worrying about the white so much as I'm worrying about the black. It's the black that I'm more interested in. So I'm just going to paint up until I see the white showing up, and then I'm going to come back down again and paint all the black in. Okay, we'll bake that down with the Alt key. I'm just going to move it out of the way, and we're going to go back to our layer styles, and this time we're going to throw on a multiply. And again, I'm going to pull it right back. something like that. Okay, so we've got a bit of dark texture on the bottom, dark dirt on the bottom, light watermark on the top. Let's start doing something interesting with the metal here. So let's throw down a new layer again. And let's find a texture. Let's rotate that around. Maybe scale it up. And I scale it up in Mari by hitting the Control key, the Shift key, and the left mouse button. Again, we're on a new layer. I'm just going to paint that in here. Let's keep painting and then release the button so I can see the areas that I want to paint in. When I release the mouse button, the whole texture pops back into view. Okay, let's bake that down. Move it out of the way, and I think we'll go to an add on this one. And again, we're going to pull it right back. Alright, I'm going to throw down a new layer. Again, I'm going to find an interesting looking texture. Now that is interesting, but I don't want white so much now. I'm after more of a black. So we could throw an invert on it, but that doesn't always look the best. Sometimes it will work, sometimes it won't. No. And again, these dirt textures you can scale up and down. That's not so much of a problem. It's not really what I'm after. Maybe this one. We'll see if we can do an invert on this one. It may not work, but we're on a new layer again, so if we don't like it, we can easily remove it. Just going to paint that in here. Bake it down with the Alt key. Now I'm going to right click, throw down an adjustment stack and an invert. And we'll try doing a multiply on this one. Okay. And again, I'm going to pull it back. Sometimes it'll work better than others. Just depends on the underlying texture. Let's find something else a bit more interesting. Let's see what this one looks like. Again, let's throw down a new layer and paint that in. Let's see if we can do an invert on this one and see what it looks like. And bake it down. Remember to bake it down before you change any of these settings. Again, we'll do an adjustment stack and do an invert. Yeah, I don't know if this one's going to work that well either. We'll do a multiply. and we'll pull it back. We lose a lot of the detail of the texture, but it just adds a bit of a dirt mark. Let's do something a bit different. Let's throw down a new layer. Grab a new texture. We'll scale it up. Rotate it around a bit. I'm going to overpaint the entire model. Just like that. We're going to bake it down. I'll move it out of the way, and again we're going to play with our layer style here. Probably a multiply. And again we're going to pull it right back. I may even throw an invert on this and see what that looks like. It's easy to remove it if you don't like it. I think I'll leave with the invert on. I will throw down one more layer. And again, choose a different texture. Let's choose this one here. Just going to scale it up a bit. So we're on a new layer. I'm going to go into my brush editor and I'm going to pull up my brush size a bit. You could also change your opacity slightly. I won't do that at this stage though. I'm actually going to pull my brush size up quite a bit more. All right. Back into my layers. On a new layer, I'm just going to start painting it in here and there. I'm going to bake that down. Again, I'm going to move my texture out of the way and change our layer style, probably to multiply. And again, I'm going to pull it right back. We're just trying to go for an overall dirty texture here and there. I'm actually going to turn off masking here. I'm still on the same layer. I'm still with the same texture. I'm just going to start painting in bits here and there as well on the sides. Bake it down. And the same over here. Just move my texture around slightly. I'm not painting everywhere, I'm just painting here and there. We could do the same at the bottom and the top, but again, we're not going to see those. They're completely hidden. I'm really only worried about the sides and the front. Alright, I'm going to throw one more layer down, go back into my image manager, and find one more texture. No, not that one. Nope. Maybe. Or maybe not. This one might work. To see if I can't find something a little bit better. I know the texture I'm looking for. I've used it before on other parts of the this one. Okay. I'm going to scale that up a bit. I've got masking turned off. I'm going to go to edge on of the model here. Normally you would be careful doing it this way because you might get some stretching, but because we're going to be using this as a dirt map, we're less worried about it. It's still important to follow the direction of the model though. So I'm going to start on the front and angle the texture to match the front of the model. I'm going to go back into my brush editor and reduce my texture, my brush size a bit. Paint that in. Now I'm going to angle it to follow the side of the model. I'm going to paint that in. Again, I'm worrying more about the black part of the texture, less about the white. Just going to bake that down and flick around to this side. Rotate the texture again and paint that in. Bake it down. We'll just move it out of the way and we're going to go to a multiply. And again, we're just going to pull it back a bit. I want these ends to be a bit darker though. I want them to look dirty and warm. I'm also going to do the same thing here with the top, but I'm not going to change textures or layers. I'm going to use the same one. I'm just going to rotate it 180 degrees and paint it in here. Bake it down. Flip it around a bit and just make sure I get that end here as well. Let's jump back into Max. Now I've noticed between Mari and Max the gamma is slightly different, so things will show up a little darker in Max. We'll see what it looks like. Let's go into our channel color here and export flattened, export everything flattened. Again, we're going to star it so we can see everything, and we're going to overpaint the render to texture that we made, which was support.tga. Yes, we want to overwrite. Let's save our project and jump back into Max. We'll zoom in a bit here on our support. And let's reload our texture here. Now again, you see what I mean by it showing up much darker in Max than it does in Mari? No. I'm just trying to judge the color here, whether I like the color or not. I'm not sure about the color. I may pull it up a bit. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to jump into Photoshop. Just bear with me while I rearrange my tabs here because it's covering up my screen in spots that I don't want it to. I'm just going to pull that in a bit here so I can see my chat. Let's open up that support texture we just exported from Mari. I'm going to make a copy of it and do some color adjustment here. So we've gone from a green to a more of a pink. I'm going to also try changing the layer styles a little bit, see what we can come up with. Let's go with the soft light. I'm also going to grab my eraser with a very large brush size, and I'm just going to start removing parts of the copy, not everywhere, just in spots. Okay, now I'm going to save this as version 2 as a target file again. Keep it the same. We're going to call this support 2. 24-bit is fine. We don't need an alpha map. Okay, I'm just going to jump back into Max now and back into our material editor here. I'm going to load up our version 2 that we just saved out. Again, I don't like this black mark showing up here, and that's because it's showing up darker in Max than it did in Mari. So we're going to jump back into Mari. I'm going to find that layer of that mark. It's that black mark there. So it's this layer, layer 7. I'm going to pull that back. And I'm also going to pull back on the dirt on the bottom and the top a bit as well. Okay. I'm going to re-export it flattened again. We'll use the same file name. I'm going to jump back into Photoshop. I'm going to open up that re-exported version, that new version we just exported. This one here. Update. Photoshop knows I want to update the original texture. I'm going to open up the second version we created. And I'm going to copy that over the top of this. And again, I'm just going to erase parts of the texture. And resave it as version 2 again. It's because I have it opened, it won't let me resave, so let me close that down. Alright, let's jump back into Max again. We'll reload our texture here, support 2. Right, let's load up our support 1, I think. See you later, Sage. Thanks for stopping by. I'm actually going to lighten this all up as well. I'm going to select it, copy it, paste it, and do a levels on it. And I'm going to save this out as version 3. Again, 24-bit is fine. I'm going to replace that with the third version. All right. It needed to be lighter. It was way too dark. I may actually put a new texture on the top of it though. It's still looking a bit white. So what I may end up doing is overpainting it partially with another texture, I think. Yeah, I think probably that's what we'll do is we'll go back into Mari and we'll overpaint it partially with another texture. I did want to pick up some of this terracotta-y brown colour though. That's the reason I went with that texture that we're using. I think it just needs a bit more of that colour in spots. I'm sure we can do something interesting with it. Then all we have to do is create 2 or 3 variations that we can start repeating around the outside. Or probably 3 or 4 because there's quite a few of these here. And we don't want to see them in the same rendered frame at the same time. So yeah, probably 4 versions. Anyway, I think we may leave it there for today, guys. We'll pick this up again tomorrow. I'll be back on again tomorrow at 5 p.m. Pacific time in the US. Thank you guys. Pardon me. Thank you guys for watching. I really do appreciate it and hanging out with me. Thank you guys that have followed my Twitch channel today. It's very good of you. Thank you. I appreciate it. I always post 15 minutes before going live to my Twitter page, so if you're not sure, you can keep an eye on that. I will be back on again tomorrow at 5 p.m. Pacific time in the US. That's 12 p.m. in Australia and 1 a.m. in the UK. Thank you guys again for watching and hanging out with me, and hopefully I'll see you tomorrow. Take care, guys.